I'm about to rank every MCU project after Endgame into tiers, so we will really see if the MCU has been as bad as the media is making it out to be, or if there still has been some high quality content. Excluding Werewolf by Night and I Am Groot, because I feel like those projects were just for fun and don't have any significance within the main plot for the MCU. The tiers for this ranking are excellent, good, okay, not good, and bad. So starting off phase 4, we have WandaVision. This show was highly anticipated as it was the first MCU show and the first project released in a year and a half. I will have to put this show at excellent. I thought it was so entertaining going through the different eras of television and trying to scope out every little detail and Easter egg after every episode to try and figure out what was happening. At first, I thought this show was only good for the mystery of trying to decipher what was going on in every episode, but after I rewatched it, I still enjoyed it a lot and noticed new things I didn't the first time watching. I know the ending had some conflicts because there were so many fan theories of who was actually the villain pulling the strings, like Mephisto, for example, as one of the theories was. So when he didn't show up, everyone started hating on the show. But it was the start of a new saga, and you have to slowly develop everything, and not every project can be a big hitter like Endgame was. So to start off Phase 4, we have an excellent project. The next project was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This personally was my most anticipated project, as Captain America is my favorite, and I'm a sucker for hand-to-hand combat scenes. But because of my high expectations, the show did not live up to them and took a step backwards from WandaVision, as I have to place it at okay. I honestly thought the show was pretty bad the first time watching it because it ended up being nothing like I pictured it in my head, but after rewatching it a year later, it actually wasn't as bad as I originally thought. I just let my emotions cloud my judgment the first time around since it wasn't what I expected. The part of the show that I thought carried the entire series was the relationship between Bucky and Sam. I did hate how it seems like they dumbed down Bucky's fighting skills. He was getting his ass kicked from a young girl who was a newly super soldier with little experience, while he was the deadliest assassin in the world. I did like the inclusion of Zemo, but wish he got more screen time. Next up is Loki. I originally didn't care about this show because we already got so much of Loki and he died in Endgame, but this show turned into my favorite show the MCU released. So this is placed in excellent. It had the mystery element that WandaVision had to scope out what is going on in every episode, but with more action and bigger stakes. I love Season 1, and Season 2 ended up being even better. I know many people think the Loki and Sylvie romance is weird, but I think it's perfect for Loki's character. The beginning of the series was showing how Loki pushes everyone away and he could never love anybody like he loves himself, and his own goals were all he cared about as he was a loner. So him falling in love with a female version of himself fits perfectly. I'm not saying they should go off and have babies because that's where it will get weird, but the connection and love they hold for each other, I'm fully supportive of. Black Widow is up next, and I gotta say, it's a tough one to rank. This movie was released at a bad time as it should have been made before her death in Endgame, and it was entertaining to watch, mainly because Alexei and Yelena carried the movie with their fun personalities, but the biggest part that tanked this movie was the villains, especially what they did to Taskmaster. So the story wasn't good, but I can still have fun watching this movie just because of some of the characters, so I'd put this at okay. Next up is What If. I am so disappointed with this show because they had endless amounts of possibilities for the show, and this show could have kept going on as there are infinite stories to tell, but it only lasted 3 seasons. There were some episodes I loved, but overall, the main storyline they were pushing with Captain Carter and the Watcher, I didn't really care about at all. I wish they just focused on telling individual interesting stories rather than making an overall series plotline. So I will put What If in the category of not good, even though there are a few individual episodes that I really love, but not enough to rank it higher. Next is Shang Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings. I was so happy with this movie. I had high hopes because he's supposed to be a better hand-to-hand fighter than Captain America, and his fight scenes have been awesome. So this movie didn't disappoint with that. I would also have to stick this movie with excellent. I would say that within all the solo characters' origin movies the MCU has, Shang-Chi is probably my favorite origin movie. Next up is Eternals. This movie was just straight up a train wreck. I really think this one should have been a TV show instead of a movie because they had way too many characters to introduce in a singular movie, especially since the characters were my favorite part about the entire movie. and it was a shame that they weren't shy of just killing off any character, including Gilgamesh, who was my favorite character. I wasn't a fan of the movie, but I want to see more of the characters, so this will be placed with not good. Next, we have Hawkeye. Hawkeye always gets a lot of shit from the fans, but I love him. This show was exactly what the MCU needed. It wasn't trying to be super big. It was just trying to be small and grounded while telling a simple story showcasing the trauma of Hawkeye and how his past was catching up to him. It also had great character additions like Kate Bishop and Yelena together because they were a lot of fun. The MCU needs more projects that are more simple without trying to be a huge blockbuster like Hawkeye. And for that, I rank Hawkeye as good. Next, we have No Way Home, and I probably will upset a lot of people. I put this movie as just okay. Watching this movie opening night was epic and one of the best theater experiences outside of Endgame, and I was so hyped after watching it. But after rewatching it and looking outside of the hype and nostalgia of our childhood characters returning, the movie actually really wasn't that good. Yes, I still love this movie and will always enjoy watching it to see the three Spider-Man together, but if you take away the old Spider-Man from this movie, it honestly isn't great, and I think the nostalgia of bringing everyone back blinds most people on how good this movie actually is. The storyline that the post-credit scene for Far From Home, where Peter's identity was revealed and he's labeled as a criminal, was so good and set up great potential to have the entire movie revolve around that, but instead, they quickly brushed through that within a 10-minute montage in the beginning of the film. But I do like the ending of this film and how Peter is now all on his own, which makes him feel like the true Spider-Man. Next, we have Moon Knight. He's a character that hasn't been represented much outside of comic books, and I love the way they handled this show. Oscar Isaac was amazing in this, and the only real complaint is that I want to see more of him fighting, which we should get in the future. So this show I have listed at good. Next is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This is another film that I had high hopes and so much potential like What If, but they wrote the story way too safe, and it barely had any multiverse action. With the title being Multiverse of Madness, I expected big things, but they barely even went through the multiverse. They spent a lot on the movie just in one timeline. And the madness of it all wasn't from the crazy opportunities the multiverse could bring. The madness was just Wanda chasing them. I was okay with Wanda being an antagonist and wanting to bring back her children, but I wish she wasn't the main villain. I wish there was some other evil that was lurking in the film. I don't think it was a bad film. It was just the complete opposite of what I was expecting. So this movie is listed at okay. Next is Miss Marvel. I have this listed as bad. I just do not care to rewatch this ever. It just felt like I was watching a Disney Channel TV show and was never really invested in the story. Kamala's mom also was a great antagonist for her character for the show, trying to be overprotective. And the second she found out she was a superhero, she dropped the overprotective act and let her go out and be free. Like, wouldn't that make her be even more overprotective because she's putting herself in harm's way? Even though I don't like the show, I do like Kamala's character and would love to see her in a Young Avengers team with Kate Bishop. Next is Thor: Love and Thunder. This has to be the most disappointing MCU film ever created. There was so much hype for this film with Gore as the villain and after the huge success of Ragnarok. But they just turned this film into a circus. There was no seriousness, deep feelings, or emotion. It was just way too goofy to the point where a character as important as Jane for Thor's storyline didn't even make me feel sad that she was dying. I wish they can go back and remake this film and dial back the comedy and goofiness to be more along the lines of Ragnarok, or probably even have less comedy than Ragnarok. So this movie is also going into the bad section. Next up is She-Hulk. Overall, I think this show was a flop, but I don't think it was completely wasteful. The show just didn't seem serious at all and basically felt like the studio was just saying F you to the fans. We are going to make this shit to spite all your backlash. The only positives I will say is that I did like the first episode. They actually had some great moments with Bruce that made you feel for him, and I thought it set up great potential for the rest of the series until it got shot straight down the drain. The other positive of this show was Daredevil. Every moment with him in the show was great and probably the only marketing point they had to get people to continue watching. So because of the stuff with Bruce and Daredevil, I will not put this show in bad, but instead place it at not good. Next is Wakanda Forever. This movie was actually pretty enjoyable. The studio was dealt bad cards on how to approach this movie with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, but I think they handled it as well as they could have. I always say a superhero movie is only as good as its villain, and I really liked Namor as the villain. The fight scenes were great in this movie, and I honestly think they were better than the fight scenes in the first movie, so I'd rank this movie at okay. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. This was mainly a project just for fun in the spirits of Christmas, but it did have some significance to the stories of the characters, so I thought it was worth including in this. I think this was very enjoyable to watch and very funny. I think it executed exactly what it wanted to do and something I could rewatch every Christmas, so I'd put this at good. Next is Quantumania. This film I have mixed feelings on. I think this is an enjoyable film for the Ant-Man scale of movies, but this movie was supposed to be really big as it was setting up huge things as Kang being the next Thanos and Ant-Man just defeating him. But now that Kang isn't the next Thanos, maybe this film can sit a little bit better with some people, but it still won't make it an amazing film. So I'll put this with just okay. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is up next. All I gotta say is that James Gunn has done it again. This movie was a perfect kickstart the MCU desperately needed. It had everything I wanted out of an MCU movie, so I'll put this with excellent. Next is Secret Invasion, another highly anticipated project that was a total letdown. It gave off some Winter Soldier vibes in the trailers, which made me very excited, plus the Skrulls being shapeshifters. There could have been so many twists and turns throughout the show, but they played it way too safe. So Secret Invasion is going under not good. Next, we have The Marvels. I enjoyed the introduction of Monica and Kamala in their shows and thought their personalities of the three heroes had good dynamic together. The movie was nothing special, but I don't think it was completely awful either. I actually liked some of the fight scenes of them switching places while using their powers, but the final fight was way too short, so I'll put this movie at okay. Next is Echo. This show is probably the #1 MCU project that I just don't care anything about and will probably never rewatch it. I was actually excited for the show because I was a fan of the Hawkeye show and her character within that show. Plus having Kingpin involved completely sold me to watch it. But I was extremely disappointed and don't think I could find a single positive out of this show. So this is going in the bad. Next is Deadpool and Wolverine. Another refreshing movie the MCU was in desperate need for. All the Deadpool movies are so fun, especially this one, while intertwining the fourth wall breaks within the MCU. Plus all the huge cameos and Hugh Jackman's return made it such an enjoyable film. The only thing is the plotline wasn't the best, but I don't even care because everything else about this movie was great. So this movie will be listed at good. Next up is Agatha. This show gets a lot of hate, mainly because people were hating and judging the show before it was even released, but I thought this show was really good. The middle part of the show really sucked me in, as there were some good twists and quality individual stories being told about each character. Plus, being released during Halloween with the spooky vibes made the show even more enjoyable to watch. So I will place this show at good. Captain America: The Brave New World. Another project that was getting hated on before its release, but it wasn't awful. Yes, some of the writing was mediocre, and they had a problem within the movie's villain, but overall I can say that it was entertaining within the action and some of the character stories. I'll place this movie at okay. The last show we have is Daredevil Born Again. I love the tone of the show, and I think they did a good job at keeping aspects of the Netflix show, but also making it feel like it fits into the MCU and not like a separate project. I will have to place this show at good. I can't place this show at excellent because it isn't complete. They ended up splitting the show in half from one long season to 2 smaller seasons, which has been very noticeable by the season finale. The only problem I have with the first season is that there never was a conclusion or resolution to any of the events that happened. The entire season was just a giant build-up, and I was waiting for a big climax to hit, but it never did. It completely cut the season off in the middle of the story without no final conclusion to that first season. I know I will probably love the show overall with the 2 seasons together and probably place it in the excellent category, but I just wish they kept it one season instead of splitting it up. If you look at the first 3 Netflix seasons, they all ended a story within the season and kept things to continue on to the next seasons for new stories. But this season finale didn't give that same conclusion feeling. I know right now it's giving me that bad taste in my mouth, but I'm confident I'll feel satisfied once the new season releases. Lastly, we have the Thunderbolts. Before this movie was released, just from the announcement of the cast and then seeing the trailers, something in my gut was telling me that they were going to do a good job with this movie. And I was right. This movie was fantastic and exactly what the MCU needed with the first Avengers movie coming up soon since Endgame. So I'll put this movie under excellent. The dynamic of the cast was great. There wasn't a single character in the movie that I hated. The biggest complaint I had was that they killed Taskmaster after just 2 minutes of screen time. This movie had humor, action, a well thought out theme, and great individual motivation for each character for them wanting to team up. This is the type of MCU project we were used to getting, and they just need to continue producing more like this. I personally believe the Multiverse saga hasn't been a complete train wreck, as most people make it out to be, but yes, they have had some problems, and they haven't been as consistent as they were within the Infinity Saga, but I feel like there are still some quality projects that they have made so far in the Multiverse saga, but the only way to know if all these projects would be worth it is how they end up concluding this saga. So I'm crossing my fingers that they find a good way to give a conclusion to this saga.